Brian here with Texas Country Today podcast, and I got my trusty, rusty, dusty Moats partner here. We're having a little bit of fun, so don't mind us. But we got a great guest planned for today, and you might already see him. I don't know. It just kind of depends on how I edit this, but I do want to thank our sponsors before we get going on this, and we're going to start with smithmusic.com. Yep, smithmusic.com, the pioneers and leading the cutting edge for music distribution and all that other good stuff that gets your music out there for everybody to hear. Then you got Sharp Supply Leather Company, making the finest leather products and goods for all these artists. If you want to see a really cool guitar strap, you could look at Dusty Moats, but I recommend going and look at Josh Ward's. I think is a little bit nicer. Randy Brown, on the other hand, I think has got the nicest guitar with kind of the simplest strap. I'm not going to get into the semantics of that.
Dude, you're such a hater. You're just saying that because you ain't got one. That's all that's on it. And Josh told me you got. Hey, and I hate to tell you, bro. Josh told me you called an ass. I said, make that son of a bitch wait.
Yeah. Josh called what?
Now I know why.
What?
I'm teasing.
No, I forgot where it's all. We got Texas Select Beverage Company making some killer teas, coffees, non-alcoholic beers. I'm probably forgetting something other than Dusty really loves the root beer. He talks about it nonstop. He loves it.
Hold on.
He's probably going to go get one. And then we've got, of course, R. Watson Boots. Fairly new to the game, but, coming from a custom boot world myself, I can tell you these are some of the best boots in the game.
Do they make a 15D?
They probably do, yeah.
They do, brother. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, look at that. Texas Select non-alcoholic beer.
Nice.
And then you get Fort Worth camera. If you're in the Fort Worth area or DFW area and you need top-of-the-line camera equipment or rentals, they also do school of photography. They have they're one of the few places you can still buy film and get film developed by a professional. And then our last one, of course, is Cinco Microphones. Cinco Microphones, of course, supplies all the microphones for Texas Country Music News and Texas Country Today Radio, as well as for 1/3 of this podcast at the moment. I got to get Dusty some microphones. But other than that, our guest today is the one and only Bubba Westly.
What is up, guys?
That is not Co-Wetzel. That is Bubba Westly.
He does kind of look like him, dude. That's a good call. Do you get that a lot, Bubba?
I've gotten it before. But I mean, I'm like like that version you get from some weird Aldi app or, some overseas. I'm the foreign. I'm like that what do they call that? Like the Amazon, that Chinese Amazon shit you get for real cheap. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're talking about like the knockoff Bo Jackson jerseys?
Oh, yeah, dude. That's me. I'm like the Co-Wetzel version of that.
There you go.
Seeing deeper.
Right on,
I'm
brother.
fatter.
He's like a cross between, and not your singing, but just the look. You're like a cross between Co-Wetzel, Rico from Ken Fo, and Sonny Saseda. It's just like the three
Dude,
guys.
Those are all relatively handsome debonair men.
Well, you know what? Yeah. If you watch my OnlyFans, you can see what's bigger than all three of them. Their music might be bigger, but
I don't even know what to say to that.
You're talking about your shoe size, right?
Yes. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah. Big hands, big feet, right?
Make big socks.
Well, Bubba, I've got 1,000,001 questions for you, but
not about your OnlyFans.
Not about okay.
For those that don't know about you, who are you? Like musically, where do you come from? What inspires you? What made you start an OnlyFans? I mean, never mind. Don't go there.
So my OnlyFans is on a low subscription right now. So be sure you get it. It's like 99 cents. Just kidding, guys. I really don't have an OnlyFans. But no, dude, I grew up on the coast of Texas. It's a little bitty town by Matagorda Bay, Bay City area called Bowling, Texas. Boling. Man, I grew up in a town like that. I grew up in the country, obviously. went through the whole well water thing. If anybody has ever had to grow up on well water, dude, you learn a thing or two, and your skin gets tougher. I think that's why I can deal with the government these days. My skin's so tough from that well water back then. But now that, guys, I grew up in a small town and just started playing guitar when I was about, in high school. I picked it up a little bit. So really what drove me to guitar was I had a knee surgery from playing sports in high school, and I've never been a big TV person. And I've always been outdoorsy, fishing, hunting, doing all the fun stuff like that. And my grandpa played a little guitar, and I was like, hey, I want a guitar. I want to learn how to play. And that was that. It just kind of took off. Played some ball in college and went to school at Texas Tech. Me and Dusty actually both went to SBC. I might have gone to SBC a few years later than Dusty.
Nah, don't. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
But definitely attended the same school. It's funny because we had some of the same teachers because we talked about it the other day.
Dude, they were there. Some of them are still there.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to retire, man. I'm just saying.
Well, dude, so you're talking about SBC. Bubba, tell some of the people. There's a lot of people that know the history of SBC.
Yeah.
I don't even know what SBC is.
South Plains College,
yes,
out of Levelland, Texas.
Levelland, Texas. It's weird how tied in I am with Levelland. Way before I knew I was going to be tied in with Levelland, Texas. So, Levelland is a program created by Tom T. Hall. That's the How I Got to Memphis guy, if you ever heard of that song. And basically, Waylon came in and later and kind of helped build the program up. He paid a lot of, donated a lot of money to the school. Shooter Jennings went there. The lead singer from Lone Star, my God, I'm blank right now.
Richie McDonald.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Dude, Josh Abbott, Wade Bowen. It's a long,
Leanne Womack.
Yeah, Leanne Womack. Long list of Texas guys that went there. So I went to school with several guys that are still touring right now, with bigger name guys. And it was a program, man, that really gets you focused on what you want to do in this music industry. And it's one of the best in the United States, probably the world, to be honest with you. And we had modern performance techniques classes, sightseeing classes, audio classes, everything you can think of that involves some kind of stage performance, live music. Dude, it was there. And it was a great program. I enjoyed it. I wish I could go back for more things. I went there for music management and commercial music. I got a vocal and guitar degree from there. And then I also went to school at Texas Tech because there's really nowhere to live in Levelland unless you book those little small apartments pretty quick. So I had to travel from Lubbock to Levelland every day. And that was about 45 to 50 minutes.
So I lived right off the loop. I was in those. There's a set of apartments that were right off the loop. That, man, it was like a direct shot. I loved the drive, and I went to Tech and Levelland at the same time too. Same exact thing. You would jam all those classes together.
Yeah.
Did you do the same thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would be at SBC in the daytime and Tech at night. So that's kind of how that worked out. And it was great. I enjoyed it. Lubbock is a very, very it's a beautiful town. If you like that kind of really scenic area, if you like the country, like I grew up in the country. So Lubbock is just a town in the middle of nowhere, man. And I love it. And I think it's a very underrated town. That's the word I was looking for. It's very underrated because, especially if you live on the college side, you love that kind of college life. There's a great nightlife there. There's a great music scene. It's definitely, if I'm going to use the word underrated, Lubbock is definitely one of the most underrated music scenes in Texas. And
see, I agree for the rest of the world, but here in Texas, I think there's plenty of people that know about places like Blue Light Live.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of caught on that Josh Abbott and Pat Green and all those guys kind of came out of Lubbock, and they've been given a lot of love. I do know that there's a pretty healthy music scene there now. Obviously, there was tragically, but there was an artist that just got killed in a car accident not too long ago that was playing out in Lubbock.
Very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, guy. Yeah.
Emma, well, and that's kind of interesting. That's it's funny that you brought that up. Emily, I'd only met her. Well, I say we worked together off and on. We were talking about doing some work at Rosewood together and a couple other things right before she passed. But man, she was really a part of a blooming scene over there with like Caldwell. I even think Caldwell Studios is still bumping, bro. I still think it's still doing well in Lubbock too. I know it's been there for a long time, and there's so many venues, Blue Light, and it's just
Wild West was there when I was there. Dates my age.
Dude, I was there when Midnight Rodeo was there, bro.
I think it was at the. I think that turned into Wild West.
I think that's exactly what
it's
it is.
Right,
that's
right there off the loop, that big old building off the loop. Yeah, so.
Yeah, man. Hey, I used to run sound because I was going to South Plains for concerts, and I would run sound there as my job.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then I waited tables at Leal's, the Mexican food restaurant.
I bounced on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at the Blue Light for a very short while I was there.
Do you remember? Gosh, I'm gonna throw some funny stuff. So, I worked at a place also. It was when I was there. It was called Davalon A212, and the lady that ran it, her name was Sulana. She was an Asian lady, and they let 16-year-old stuff in there. And they had this stoplight that was up on the wall. And, dude, when it was okay for young people to drink, they'd be serving. The light would be green when it'd be cautionary. When the TABC was about to come in, the light would be yellow when it was time to stop. And the bouncers would run around, knock drinks out of the hand. That light would be red all around.
Wow.
Do you remember that place?
I don't know. That's crazy.
It was across the street from Cowpokes. Do you remember Cowpokes?
No, I don't even think I've heard of that one.
Well, now the old farts here. It's kind of there by the beer gardens.
Now you're aging yourself here, Dusty. I've been doing that.
I know. Hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is, bro.
No, for sure.
I laugh because that was a place where all the youngsters would drink, dude. And they would just go party. And then, so I don't know if you know this. Toby Keith got signed out of the Villa Inn in Lubbock to his first record deal with Mercury.
Wow, no way. I did not know that.
I caught this. Now you want to talk about dating myself. So get ready. The first time I ever met Toby Keith was in the Villa Inn in Lubbock, Texas.
Wow.
And he just got signed and he was about to release Should Have Been a Cowboy.
Wow, dude, that's crazy. That's awesome. That's a cool story. I love it.
You see me farting dust right now?
No, but I mean, dude, there's so much history there in Lubbock. You got Buddy Holly, Waylon Jennings, they're all from there. Waylon Jennings from Levelland. And
yep.
The program there is great, and I enjoyed it, And if you take that 111 drive to Levelland, Texas, man, it is beautiful out there. So that's, a few small towns. There's still no liquor. You have to drive like about 20 minutes outside of the city limits to get any liquor. If you were a liquor drinker in college, that was one of those things we always had to do. I think it was called Pinky's. We would drive to.
And the Strip. Right? It was the Strip, right? It looked like a little Vegas.
Yeah, all the way on the outside. And then, dude, the Cotton Club, they had the Cotton Club. If you ever had a chance to go in the Cotton Club on the outside of, I think it was almost a Slayton, Texas, dude. That was a great, cool venue. It was like Elvis Presley played there. They had a whole bunch of Elvis memorabilia in there. It was cool.
Speaking of that, and we really want to talk about your career stuff too. Think about what is the most profound thing that you gained from your time in Levelland at South Plains College that you still utilize today?
Oh my God, everything. From writing contracts, the simple little things that they taught you to, sightseeing and ear training. And Brian could vouch for this one the other night. Somebody was like, "Hey, can you play this song?" And I had no clue. I've never played it in my life. And I was just like, let me take a few little hit, listen to it real fast. And I was all right, let's go. That was just, I utilize everything that I was taught there in music every day. And that's something that, a lot of people can't say that they paid at, a $50,000 to $100,000 university. Do you use your, philanthropy degree every day? Do you use your humanities degree every day? Do you use your math degree every day? No, but every time I hit that stage, I think about something from South Plains, or think about, I utilize everything that was taught there. Every day I do a vocal warm up, and as a vocal warm up, I learned South Plains. So that's just one of those things that just sticks with you. And It was a great call, dude. I wish I could go back and learn something else. I wish I could go back and take audio or some of that nature. But yeah, it's a great college, man. I recommend anybody that's had any kind of desire to learn music or have a career in music. That's the place to go.
That's cool. That's cool to hear. I didn't have any of those college experiences because I joined the Army right out of high school.
Thank you for your service, man.
I was done with learning, and I learned now that it was probably ADD or ADHD that was causing me to struggle so much in college or in high school. So I left and I joined the Army, and I came back, and then I did the college thing afterwards. But it's just not the same when you're the 26, 27-year-old guy, in a college with a bunch of 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. You know what I mean? Just it doesn't sound the same. But you guys are talking about all these epic bars and things like that growing up, man. We had two places that we could go in western Nebraska. One was in Gearing, Nebraska, and it was called The Pond. And the only time we could get in was Thursday nights, and it was affectionately named Toothless Indian Night because there wasn't many people with teeth at that bar on Thursday nights. And then we would go to the state line oasis in between. It was right on the state line of Nebraska and Wyoming. And it was a BYOB. You could BYOB, but you could bring your own beer, but it was also a BYOS, and it was a bring your own stripper. And they had a stripper pole in the back, and you could bring your own stripper to strip at the state.
What in the what?
Yep.
What if you didn't have a stripper? Could you bring your grandma?
You could bring anybody that wanted to get up on that pole could strip.
One of the best nights, and I say nights like that because you're going to talk about a college night or some of that nature. My buddy went to A&M. I had a few buddies that went to A&M, so I'm not even going to mention names, but we used to go down there. And when I was off, once I graduated from tech and everything up there, I moved to South San Marcos and tried to go to school for my master's. Didn't work out, but we used to come to College Station, and on Wednesday nights there was this place. We called it the Dirty Sock, but it was called the Silk Stocking. And on Wednesday nights it was amateur night. And dude, that was the best night. I would travel from San Marcos to College Station just to be there on Wednesday nights to hit that amateur night, bro. It was great. BYOB.
And it was people
have a great time.
They weren't strippers. So it was anybody could get up.
You're right. That's it. It was literally one of those things you can just.
Strip clubs are in Nashville.
Well, and so
it was somebody trying to make that rent money for the month, at the end of the month.
Well, and I'll tell you some funny stuff. We all kind of have a stripper story, and mine doesn't have anything to do with college. But I moved to Colorado for about a year back in 03 and 04, right before the floods of New Orleans happened. And man, I lived in a place called Fort Lupton, which is in between like Greeley and Denver. And my grandparents are from there originally, right? They lived there. And I was actually born in Denver, but that's where my mom's from too. And in Brighton, which is the biggest city next to it, there was a strip club kind of similar to the Toothless Indian that he's talking about. But man, on Thursdays, there were midgets.
Oh, no.
It's still there.
No.
And man, what's so funny is, bro, is we would go do karaoke and then we'd go watch midget strippers.
Wait, okay, so you're telling me right now in Colorado there's still midget strippers?
Yeah, so they have a midget stripper tour that travels up and down the Front Range, and it's these group of midgets that are all strippers, and they hit different clubs all the way up and down the Front Range.
Yep. And it's every Thursday, bro. Well, at least it was then. It may be a different night now. But
when's that tour to Colorado again?
Well, the funny part about it is you got to, if you've never seen it, you got to.
That's exactly, dude. It's like a train wreck. You can't turn away.
And dude, and the funniest part, well, hey, something totally even crazier. I went to school in Missouri. I played football at Cape Girardeau at Southeast Missouri, and man, across the across the river of that was Carbondale, Illinois, and they had a place called the Purple Crackle. They had midget strippers, and they also had black bear wrestling.
Black bear races,
dude. Black bear wrestling, like where you'd wrestle a bear, dude. And they would declaw the bear, which is
no, I get it. I'm so intrigued.
And they put a muzzle on you. They had a muzzle on that. I got a story for you here, and I don't normally tell this shit, but it's funny. So, dude, I was a big Jaeger drinker in college, and you and I talked about this. I weighed about 305, and I could bench about 500 pounds. I was this big old guy, and dude, I'm like, I'm drinking. We go to the Purple Crackle. I'm not even supposed to be in there because I'm underage. I'm like, F yeah, I'm going to wrestle this bear, right? And so I'm like, shit, yeah. And I get in there, and the guys tell me, said, listen, bear's sitting in the corner. He's kind of on a chain. He's kind of chilling. He wants nothing to do with any of this. He doesn't like the dog and pony show. He's pretty much like this going, yeah. I'm not into it. You see people do it. Well, he would say, well, don't punch the bear. Don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And he said, listen, I'm going to say this to you twice. Don't punch the bear. I said, okay. Well, I already had about 15 shots in me already, dude. So, man, I get in there, man, and I'm wrestling him, and he's just kind of not doing nothing. And I get behind him, and I put him in this full Nelson, and I hear him go, rrr. And I'm like, oh, shit. Well, and then I grab him, and, dude, I pick him up a little bit. He was heavy as shit. I felt every muscle in my body contract, because you're using everything to pick him up. I got him up about that far off the ground, and I thought I was cool, right? Well, man, then I go back around, and he's kind of just laying on me, and like a dumbass, I reach back, and I punch the bear in the side of the head. Bam! And he goes, don't punch. And it was like slow motion. I told you not to punch that fucking bear. Excuse my language. Bleep that for me. And it was like slow motion. I hear this. Pow! And he knocks the shit out of me. Knocks me all the way across the thing, and I land in the ropes. And, dude, you ever seen like the wrestlers where their arms get caught in the ropes? He pretty much knocks me out with one backhanded punch. And I remember coming to, and the guy goes, I told you not to punch the fucking bear. And so my friends are laughing, take me out. My face is bleeding down the side of my face where he knocked the shit out of me, right? And I'm sitting at the bar, and I don't even know if I'm hallucinating, but all I remember the next time is I see the bear up there, and you can kind of see he's got his arm like this, and he's waving his arm like this, and there's a girl swinging from it like it's a trapeze. Like from the bear. That's my last memory of the whole deal.
Wow.
That's bear.
So she tried to get that bear under control, and that bear was ready to kill you.
Yeah, he was done. I don't remember what happened, but if I remember for sure, but I think they kind of quit because me punching the bear was the end. The bear was done with everybody and everything, and he told me not to. And you had to pay, dude. I had to pay $100 to do that. I paid the bear to whoop my ass.
That's a great. I don't have a story that cool. I don't have any story that cool.
Would you do it though, wouldn't you?
Huh?
Midget strippers are pretty good too.
I've never seen midget strippers, but single moms, yeah.
To tide you over a little bit, I can change the subject just a little. If you wanted to get tided over, go out to PKI's house. I know he's been hosting midget wrestling out there, or at least he had it around the 4th of July weekend. He might bring it back. But you've got a couple things out to radio. I want to ask you about a couple things.
Hold on a second. Brian just make sure he got away from strippers, bears, and amateur hour. We just totally – that is not like a segue. That's a distinct stop sign, hand up, we're done.
He said, this is going down a road that we should not go down.
Oh, that's funny.
Hey, this is why I love this podcast. We're just taking a trip, baby, and that road was a little hilly, a little rocky right there, but let's put us back on smooth pavement. Get us on the interstate, Brian.
So back in February, you released My Everything, otherwise known as Hannah's Song.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about that song.
So
I heard about it the other night, but go ahead.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so I actually wrote that song for my wife as our first dance at our wedding. And that was all it was supposed to be. It was never supposed to be released to radio. We didn't think, anything. And the music video that we shot for it was my gift to my wife for our wedding. And then we started sharing it with friends, and friends were like, "Oh my God, that's really really great. You need to keep going. So, I'd met Dusty, and I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to toss it to Dusty. I'm going to toss it here. I'm going to toss it to a few people and see what everybody thinks. And everybody came back with really, really great feedback. And I'm glad that they did, because the song did exactly, what we wanted. I think it went to number 7, stopped at 7, and on the TRC. So, it was one of those things, man, that when something just sticks, it just sticks, and that was one of those songs. And it's probably, it was never supposed to be anything, a personal song to my wife. That was that. And it did great, man. And I'm kind of glad we cut it, and I'm glad that we released it, and I'm glad it did what it did. So
it was interesting, Bubba. A lot of the program directors that talk about that song in particular, you have a underground PD fan club. We were talking about Bill Green. Ironically, I've got a meeting with him tomorrow, by the way, based on our conversation.
Cool.
We were talking a little bit about Bill Green, but man, you've got 7 or 8 program directors that talk about you every time that I talk to them.
Nice. And
man, a lot of it is man, and I've told you this, dude, and this is a huge compliment. That tune had some Bon Jovi feel, and dude, there's nothing more rock country than Bon Jovi, even though they're from New Jersey and crossover appeal. And so, when they talk about it, they can't wait. In fact, Sebi's one of them, the guy that runs the internet chart that's actually trying to do the rock chart. He was talking, he actually really, and I kind of told you this, he's creating that country rock chart specifically for you and songs like yours.
Wow.
And you inspired him to do it, because there's so many cool songs like that man kind of fall in this chasm between Texas country, 90s country, and this rock. And we have the red dirt stuff that we're seeing, and yours is kind of like Leafs. It's really polished and it's pristine. And, it's like, some of this, gosh, how can I say this?
Gently.
So there's a really cool barbecue place in Kansas City. And man, most of the barbecue places, like when you go somewhere, didn't we eat barbecue and they served it on paper? Bubba, was that you and me?
We went to Texas Pit.
Okay, yeah. So they served it on this paper. It's kind of whatever, right? Yeah. Well, there's also a barbecue place that's in Kansas City that it comes out and there's all these pretty colors and these 14 different sauces, and the dude's won multi awards. To me, that's the difference in what we're talking about with you. You're the pristine with pretty sauces and really good slaw with blue cheese and shit in it. And then you got the red dirt, which is, man, hey, there ain't no fault. I'll sit down and stick a towel down the middle of my shirt and get shit all over me and eat that too. But that's the difference. And that's kind of what the PDs say. Is that something that you do with intention?
Yeah. So the way I cut, man, is this next record, and you and I talked about this. I didn't write this record for radio. I didn't write this record with intention. And if I did, the only intention it was for my listening. I was writing records. Like my first record that came out, it was my record to see if people liked what I was doing. So that was the record that was nominated for all the awards. That was a record that I had my first top 10 hit on it was Roses. And it had a lot of great things from it. One, music video of the year, a lot of cool stuff. But I took from that record what people hung on to the most and then cut my second record. And that second record was one of now don't get me wrong, I love my second record, Cashing Out record, is probably one of my favorite records, but it's also what people love the most from my first record. And I took that and wrote that record with an intention to commercialize what I was doing and bottle up for the people that loved what I did on my first record the most. And then my third record, my last record, was one that I wrote what I wanted to write, but I tried to make it too commercial. And so that's why this next record, and the reason I say that is because I wrote what I wanted to write, but I tried to make it sound like this, or I tried to make these tones sound more like this. And I took too much time into it. And also I was coming off COVID, and COVID really bad in 2021. And so I literally was singing in the vocal booth with an oxygen mask, dude, just like one of those little oxygen tanks you can buy. I probably went through like 5 or 6 of those tanks, just going through that. Bro. And It wasn't my best record. And I'll tell everybody, that's just the honest truth. And it's like all the program directors and everybody that listened to that record, they were like, hey, dude, some of the best writing we've ever heard you do, but the quality of the record just isn't there. I understand. I thought the same thing. My vocals weren't where they needed to be. I hated the fact that I released something like that to the public, but I'm glad that the songs that are on there, people have really valued for the songwriting aspect of that record more than they valued the production of it. And
Go ahead.
And so now what I'm writing for is, and what I wrote for, this next record we're coming, the singles, Hannah song is on there, Bad Boy, which hasn't been out, Trippy, which we're going to release here pretty soon. I wrote that record for me. I did what I wanted to do on it. I wrote the guitar parts. I did everything to my liking and my being. I got to work with some great people, Stormy Cooper, Will Braun, was amazing to work with, producer for this record. He's out of Houston, and Will's a little rock guy. And so when I came in, Will was like, yes, nothing country. There's no country here. Let's do what you want to do. And of course, I'm a little soulful country, and I like to call it stomp rock. And that's just, because the reason I call it that is because when you hear it, have that beat, man, where it just makes you want to toe tap, makes you put your foot on the floor, like feels so good. I'm talking about that. That song is one of those that just makes you want to dance, makes you just want to do something and get up, and that's what I wrote for, man. I wrote for me. What kind of makes me hype? What makes me feel good? That rock aspect, what I grew up on, how do I mix everything that I was influenced by together to make my original brand? And that's what I did. I finally started branding myself in the last record. I started finding out who Bubba was as a brand, who's my originality, where do I come from, what's going to make me stick out the most. And basically, what do I not, even if this project sells to 5 people, what makes me tick? What makes me feel better about the project that I put out? What makes me feel good on the inside about what I'm writing, what I'm letting out, what I'm letting people hear? And that's what I took in. I don't need I'm independent as independent can be. And I value myself on that. I'm not signed with labels. I'm not signed with songwriting companies. I'm not signed with anybody. I'm writing and I'm producing records because I feel that's what is missing. And I feel that's what I like. And so either people are going to click onto that. And it's like you said, right now I'm seeing this click form. And I use that term very kind of lightly because I wouldn't say I'm in a clique, but I'm seeing this following of my brand that's very, very unique. It's not teenagers and it's not old people. It's not 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that have money that are throwing money at me. It's not teenagers that are, blowing up TikTok with my songs. But I'm seeing the people that have gone through life, have experienced some kind of life, and that's what I'm writing for. I'm writing about my life, my personal issues, my personal upbringing, and I'm seeing the people that have kind of feel what I'm putting out there really, really grab on and cling to it. I mean, and just hold on tight. And that's what, I really find my brand, and that's what I'm really starting to value. The people that come to my shows, and Brian can vouch for this because he was there at acoustic shows. The people that came to the show are very, very, very much in tune. They're listening. They're not talking. They're literally there with their drinks, watching what I have to say, listening to what I have to say, and holding on to every lyric. And dude, there's nothing better as a songwriter and as a performer to going, hey guys, I have a little longer set today. I'm going to do a few cover songs. What do you want to hear? And the crowd going, no, dude, whatever you're singing, that's what we want to hear. Whatever you're putting out, that's what we want to hear.
That was really cool to see. And since you brought up that set, during that set, you mentioned something that I know we can't talk about on here, but there was some other stuff within there that you sprinkled that I didn't know about you. You did. Did I hear you right? You do some like vocal coaching, or you teach people to sing?
I do some vocal lessons, some guitar lessons for stuff, and it's very, very private. It's people. I don't have a lot of time. to do a lot. You know, married and got a 7-year-old. But, you know, I do get people that approach me from time to time that are like, you know, and I'll do it over the phone. Like I have a buddy last night that texted me and was like, hey, man, I'm working on guitar. Can you help me out for this? And I taught him a few lessons. And now he's got to the point to where he's really exceeding and excelling at guitar. And the only thing he's calling me and asking me for is like, hey, what part of this pentatonic scale do I need to learn? Am I doing this right? Does this bend sound right? And so I'm getting to the points where it's like, I don't like to say that I like to take students and teach people, but people that need to really have somebody coach their craft. And that's the perfect thing to kind of say, coach their craft, have put, you know, their trust in me to do that for them. And so I've, you know, I do that over the phone for sure. And I've definitely been, you know, loving the fact that I'm able to do that for people, and people are trusting me, you know, to do that for them. So that's a cool thing to do. And I think that's just the SBC aspect of it. You know, I had a great vocal teacher, I had a great guitar teacher while I was there that really, really, you know, instilled a lot of good things and good techniques that stuck with me for so long. And now I'm getting to share those techniques with other people.
So I know Dusty's like first in the seat, but I was going to say before you jump in, Dusty, I just wanted to ask. So I know how I found you, Bubba. At least before Dusty, even I had heard some of your stuff. But Dusty, how did you find Bubba? Like, how did you guys, you two link up?
The first introduction to Bubba was Cashing Out. You know, I've been involved in radio to some extent for, I don't know, it's going on a couple of years. And, you know, I kind of fell into it by chance as well, you know, as an artist myself. You know, you start, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Jim Nash that sent me that single. Is that who promoted that single?
Yeah, Jim was pushing me at that time.
And so I think that's who actually sent him to me. And that's not my favorite song of yours. My favorite song is this obscure song that you hate the recording. And I remember the first time I heard it live, I just went, okay, that's my thing.
Yeah.
You know, but I loved his vocals. And the guy can sing his ass off. There's no question. And then we kind of connected, honestly, through Smith.
Yeah.
He's a Smith client. I'm a Smith client. Came into the radio show, got to visit a little bit. You know, I think he'd heard that I'd done some radio promotions and was doing some things. And man, to be honest, you know, I posted a post yesterday about, you know, we run what I call an artist alliance or an artist advocacy group. And I think we got to talking about what that entails. And we decided to work together, you know, promotions for us. I hate that word. Marketing, advertising is a really cost-effective entity, and it shouldn't kill us as artists to be able to shoot stuff to radio. And that was kind of our first connection. And then we kind of realized that, you know, strategically, as independent artists, we all have very similar goals, and we realized that we can help each other. And so that's kind of how we connected. And then, of course, dude, you know how relationships develop. Brian, ours is the same way. We met randomly through a festival. Then you came in video. Next thing you know, we're working together on this project. We're working together on the radio station. We're working together on your media. You already had a media company. We're working together on that. I'm helping you build your brand. You're helping me build my brand. And that's what, dude, I hate to say it. That's how my Bubba's relationships evolved. Yeah. It's been helping each other. And man, I believe, you know, I talk about this all the time, you know, good business relationships build amazing friendships, because when you do good business, there's an amount of trust that happens that you can't make happen in relationships, because there's not real transaction.
Oh, that's a perfect word.
No matter what anybody,
no
matter what anybody says, we're very transactional as human beings. And man, you know, if you're just buddies, yeah, man, I'll join you for a beer. The guy doesn't show up. It's not, he doesn't show up. Oh, yeah, that's fucking Jeff. Excuse my language. Bleep that for me. That's Jeff. He doesn't come. Well, with me, Bubba says to me, hey, I got to get that to Dusty at 2. Bubba gets it to me at 2. Hey, this thing's going to go out at 6. And then I communicate with Bubba, hey, this is what we did. We did item A, B, C, D. You know, you learn how people actually operate in the real world. Right. Brian, you see it all the time. You know, most of the time, he knows now that we become friends. If it's not on my list, it doesn't get done.
Right. No, that's true.
And then And because we're friends, right? And Bubba, you and I are the same way. We pay attention to what we commit to. Like, and he's doing stuff for me, and I'm like, hey man, I'm the last year worried. You got customers. Well, you're a customer too. But that's because we built our initial relationship on business. And so, it just changes the whole dynamic of how you operate. And, I without sharing too much, Bubba and I had a great weekend doing some things that were very personal, right?
Absolutely.
And so with that business relationship comes personal things, and, speaking of how he's a man and how I'm a man and how we look at things with our kids, it just becomes a different dynamic, and so, and man, let me tell you something, and I say this affectionately to the guys that are in this circle. Life is about layers, right? We've got an inner circle, we've got another layer around that, another layer around that, another layer that. Most of the people that we know in our lives that we do business with that are just minor business, they stay in those outer layers. A lot of our friends get in that secondary layers. But when you're doing things that something as emotional as music and music business and commitments and obligations based upon the quality of human beings that are involved in this business, it becomes a very personal and very emotional thing. And because there's a trust, people look at their music in an emotional way. Absolutely. And so, even as a business guy, I have to be very cognizant because I'm very transactional, and I have to be really careful because I look at things almost as a fault from a business standpoint. But I feel like for me, the benefit of a relationship like Bubba, or a benefit of a relationship like you, or a benefit with Jeff Canada, or a benefit with any of these people that we're gonna interview with, McBride and the Ride, right? Any of these people we've talked to, man, is that they teach me as a human being, not just as a businessman, to be able to try to understand how people work and operate, so I can be the best human being and the best business partner and best friend partner to anybody that I touch or I encounter with in this business. And I'm not beating on my own drum, but I feel like I have been very cognizant of that. And I think the relationships that I'm closest to demonstrate that. And truly, I think Bubba's one of those relationships. And hell, we're having this conversation. Brian's one of those. We do a lot of stuff for each other. And that's the way the world should be. But we know that ain't how it works.
Yeah, and I mean, even like when
I'm off my soapbox, but that's how Bubba and I met. And dude, everything I just spoke about is that all in this big ball.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's like, Friday when I went to your show, Brian happened to be there. And like we were talking, and you go, that's the guy that's going to be with us on the podcast Tuesday. I went and introduced myself. And next thing you know, Sunday afternoon, Brian, all day Sunday, pretty much, Brian and I worked together. It literally moved from that to that. I met Brian's wife, she came out and helped the photo shoot. That's how these relationships build, man. And, that just came from me sitting or Dusty listening to Cashing Out. That was sent to him, that came out 2-3 years ago, Yeah, and 2 years ago. That's how this all works.
So think about how cataclysmic that is. And when we really talk about all this stuff and I was talking to another guy, I've got a video guy down in a video guy that I work with. I love to call him a partner because, man, that's what they are. And we share, and trying to get artists to understand. And I have to preach this. You've heard me talk about it, Bubba. It's one of those deals when you find people that will work for you with genuineness and authenticity, which is very hard. You work with them, and man, this video guy, he's doing stuff for Steel Records. He's doing stuff with us. He's doing stuff with Jake. Man, he's going to do some stuff for Brian. Brian's going to get in on that. You're going to need this. I got this guy in this network. And if I send you to him, it's because we trust him. Because again, we've done good business, so now we've become good friends, right? And because that we're friends or done good business, we still respect the business and we can still be friends. And it's just everything you're talking about. As crazy as it sounds, Brian, I thank you for the question because I've been really beating on this the last week because trying to get people to understand that we're all in this together. And if people change their perspective on how they, and especially, man, and I got to love him. He just drank a Capri Sun.
Hey, man,
I was going to ask, how drinks that do you have?
Hey,
anyway, sorry.
I got a 7-year-old that loves these, and my fridge is full of them. and they are so good.
I know they are. They're addictive. Hey, when I drank, they were good with vodka too. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so I want, because you guys have a perspective of being the artist, and I want to let you know that I agree with everything Dusty said. It's important to have that transactional relationship that becomes that friendship. But man, I'll tell you what, when I first jumped into this business, it's quite literally like walking through a minefield sometimes.
1,000%.
Sometimes that tension, and I know artists don't mean it, but sometimes that tension between an artist and the venue, or another artist and another artist, or heck, even the artist and somebody they see in the crowd, that changes the transactional dynamic between the artist and the audience.
Oh, for sure.
That is what you're there for. And if we're going to use the term transaction, that's a transaction that, good, bad, or indifferent, you go to a place to play, they're expecting you to play. And
I know exactly who you're talking about. I know there's a story that he told me that was just floored him. It was the first real experience you've had with that too, right? And I'm not meaning to bring it up, but that is so commonplace.
Very common.
And and hold on real fast. So I want to qualify something real fast. If we don't get off this subject for the rest of the podcast, this is a God thing. Okay? I'm being really serious, because this has been the forefront of all of our minds for about a month, because we've talked about this all the time and the stuff you're about to bring up. So, man, I don't want to divert, because I think there's value in this. So
let's go.
Let's
go down that road,
like
baby.
You have to, because at the end of the day, man, people need to hear people talking about this if there's ever going to be some substantial change.
Heard.
Anyway.
And that's a great word for it too, like substantial change, because it happens down here in Houston. It is so, and I hate to even say that, because, and personal, and to anybody from Houston listening to this, I feel like such an outsider, because I didn't grow up in the Houston city limits. I didn't grow up in that 610 loop, but yet one of the biggest battle of the bands in Houston that gets put on, I won. And, since that has happened, I have felt like such an outsider because of so much hatred from all these other Houston artists. Now, not all of them. And I don't mean hatred, but dude, they're like, he's not from you. I even had people tell me he's not even from Houston. What is he doing here? I grew up in a little town south of Sugar Land, which is, we don't have anything, dude. I'm out in the country. The nearest big city to me is Houston, Texas. Sugar Land, Texas is where we had to go to do anything, and that's where I grew up. And that's where I grew up watching sports, and that was my sports city, the Houston Astros, whatever. And I still feel as an outsider. I live in Brenham now, which is about an hour away, which is still about the same distance as where I grew up, just in a different side of Houston. And I still kind of deep inside feel like such an outsider. I hear all these people talking mess because how does he get the Houston rodeo? How does he play the hideout? How does he do this? You know how? I look everybody dead in the eye and say, hard work. Making connections, picking up the phone,
that's
calling
what it is,
people.
Bubba. That's what it is. And, at the end of the day, there's two things I always say. People want you to do well, but they don't want you to do better than them. That's the first thing. They'll tell man, if you're doing just a little bit better, they're going to say, hey, man, congratulations.
Right.
You pass them, all of a sudden you become a target, right? That's human nature. And man, as a man and as a human being, we all struggle with that. Man, that's not as good, or that's, I catch myself thinking thoughts like that all the time. And the reality of that situation is obviously there's something that they're doing that's catching. It's not a fluke, right? It ain't. But the other piece, man, is that there's a lot of these people that pay a lot of people to do stuff for them, and they still don't get anything done.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because you just spoke about something, and we're going full circle. You're talking about being an independent artist. Dude, you're invested in your own career. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm hands-on on everything I do. I'm just like you. I'm the same exact way. And a lot of it has to do with trust. because, man, I want to get value. If I'm going to pay somebody, I want to get something out of it. I'll spend great money on the studio partners that I work with, and you know where I work, because you know why? They give me exactly what I'm looking for. With booking, it's such a hit or miss situation, or with this, so I take control of it myself. And when you take control of it yourself, whatever that's in me, oh, there's another opportunity. Oh, I can get involved with that. Oh, I can make money. Oh, I can start a radio station that helps other artists. Oh, I can do this. All of a sudden, it becomes a bigger picture because it's not just about me. You know, dude, and we talk about this all the time, the thing that you were talking about in Houston, and you and I are kind of in a different place, and we laughed about this. You know, we talk about showing my age. The reality of it is, dude, I'm coming into this. I started doing this at 48 years old. I'm 50 years old. I did it when I was younger, failed miserably because I was a drunk, whatever you want to call. Okay. But then I get a second shot. The reality is I know that the real impact that I'm going to make in this situation, sure, I'm going to have a good time and I'll make some cool music. I'm probably going to write a shit ton of songs and have people record them. But the experiences that I'm gaining now are going to be able to be passed to other people. And that's 99% what it's about, helping other people. And dude, to be honest with you, and rightfully so, ministering through my experiences with the music business and help people not have to go through those challenges. I deserve to make a paycheck or make a living doing that. And I still get to be in the business, and I still get to make good friendships and do it at an economical rate. You see where I'm going with all this. Like, at the end of the day, man, and it's being like somebody that people can trust. No, I just like to say, being somebody people can trust, and not because I'm just giving fucking lip service. Right. I live it. I live it. I live it every day. I go through it so you don't have to. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. And people discount that. And if they would quit being so myopic on their insecurities and their fucking selfishness, you know, they would realize that there's an opportunity here for you. You give an opportunity to mentor guitar players, musicians. You're talking about giving back right now. Yeah. There's opportunities. If people approach you in the right pattern, you'll share anything. You know, Bubba and I shared some information this weekend that's going to help him. Yeah. He shared stuff to help me. You know what? You earn that shit. Yeah, you earn it through being a trustworthy, good human being.
And even if it wasn't you and I there, just, you know, having conversation, we had business conversations. We had conversations about business. How do we move forward in two different areas? And it's like you said the same thing. Like, you're in Fort Worth, I'm in Houston, you know, or Houston area. How do we make what is happening in Fort Worth? I mean, dude, okay, and this is what I love the most. And I've mentioned this several times about Friday night when we were at the White Elephant. As soon as I walked into the White Elephant, the guy at the door goes, "Hey, do you work at Tana Hills?" And he goes, wait, no. Are you Bubba Westly? And I said, yeah. He goes, go ahead, dude. I know who you are. And he goes, I love your song, Cashing Out. And I'm just like, thanks, dude, you know. And I walked around the corner, and as soon as I walk around the corner, I don't even make eye contact with you. It's one of your band members that goes, oh my God, Bubba Westly. Haven't seen him. Then another musician was there. The fact that I'm trying to get to is there were so many musicians there supporting other musicians in Fort Worth that it blew my mind. How many musicians and people that of that scene, that Fort Worth scene, whether you're a photographer, you're a videographer, you're a promoter, but just so many people there supporting one artist, supporting you, supporting the scene, supporting the music. That is crazy. Because down here in Houston, dude, it's different. They're all little cliquey, man. They're so cliquey. And I'm going to tell everybody again, because I know I'm dogging on Houston right now so bad, but it's not all the same. There's a lot of great musicians here. There's a lot of great human beings here. And I still am blessed to work with several of those people. And one of my favorite people down here is a promoter that I work with from time to time. And I mean, favorite by the way he hustles. Dude, he gives back to the community, gives back to several things. About, yeah, and I'm not going to mention names because I'm not going to get in here and people like, oh, he said blah, blah, blah's name and blah, 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 you know. But you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I watch. I know exactly.
Yeah, all you got to do is watch. You know what I'm talking about. And, dude, he's an amazing human being. For what he does is something that when I get to, you know, Elder and I go, maybe this is the route I need to go with music and do that same thing. Dude, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call and be like, hey, blah, blah, blah. I need some knowledge on how to make this happen for my community. That's the guy I would call. You know what I'm saying? But because he's built his reputation, because he's built his hard work and done the hard work to build who he is as a person, who his business is, and everybody values that. And if you don't value that, it's because you're jealous. There's not another word. You envy that, dude. And I hate that. And the fact that there's so many envious, jealous people in the South, just the way the music works, dude. We need to be together, and we can preach it. You can post it on social media. Let's all support blah, blah, blah. But dude, at the end of the day, when I got, when we talked about this, I posted a post about so many musicians reached out to me. Dude, how many musicians from Houston reach out to me? I can count on my one hand. Four Houston musicians reached out to me. Now, I'm not even saying that anybody needed to reach out to me. I don't need anybody's sympathy to feel better about what's going on in my personal life, about my health. But I made this post, and 4 of them reached out to me, and they were like, Bubba, you good? I had no clue. And we talked. You know how many people from outside the scene that I would call my home scene? I can't even count on hands and toes. I can't even count on hands and toes, man. And the people that you think you would value that are closer to you would, be there for you or, help you out the most. And it's not. And they're the people that don't want to reach out and don't want to help, or the people screaming, hey, man, we need to do this. We need to do that. We need to start a musician's union. Dude, where's the hard work? Where's the reality of this? You can preach it all you want, but Dusty, people like you and people like the guy I'm talking about in Houston, they're the people that preach it, and do it, and do the hard work and back it up. That's what makes success. That's what makes everything successful here.
It's crazy you bring that up, because actually I had an interview with Daniel Andrews, another one of the guys that Dusty and you guys probably both know. And we were talking about how, the friendship thing, it changes a lot when you get into the music business, because the people that you thought were your friends that say they support you aren't the ones that are really truly helping you. They're not the ones that are sharing your social media posts or watching any of the videos or songs that you put out. You know what I mean? It's little things like that, but I do want to caution some people. They may think they are in a group like what you guys are talking about, and the only thing I would say to that is, if you look at your group that you're in, and if all your group does is tear down other groups or other people, you're not in
1,000%.
that we're talking. The kind of group we're talking about is it's the type of group that we literally just if I need something for whatever reason, I call Dusty and say, hey, can we do this, or is this possible? Whatever. Yes. Almost 99% of the time, or no. The nice thing is, I think honesty is really big within at least the group that we're a part of.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's honesty to not to be cruel, but it's honesty just to better ourselves as people. You know what I mean? So, no, I agree. I think that what we took, everything we've kind of said today is really important for people to hear. But the other thing that is important for people to hear is where they can find your music, your social media.
That's the segue.
Way to tie that one in there, bro. No. Man, social media is the game of the year, a game of the decade, the century right now, if you really want to talk about the 2000s. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I say this with a whole heart. If you get offended easily, and my Snapchat probably isn't for you, because it's the one thing I get a post without somebody going, hey, shit. So I just be honest with you, man, because somebody complains every day. Every day somebody complains. I got over, I don't know, there's a ton of followers on there that follow me.
Do you react to those?
I delete them.
I'm curious. You just delete them?
Just because, dude, my favorite, I learned this word this weekend. Why entertain them?
That sounds like a Dusty thing.
That's exactly where I learned it from.
It's a waste of time, bro. But you know something? So here's something funny. I think, and without going full circle back to what we we're talking about, the cool part about this is man, sometimes the stuff we're talking about is so unspoken unless you're in private conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The value comes from people need to hear it.
And you're right.
And they need to hear it. They need to hear how they make people feel. The ones that actually care will change it. The ones that don't won't be in the circle.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of know who those are too.
Yeah.
Some of that
you
we
know
already
up front.
know.
You know up front.
And you know by default. And at the end of the day, man, you know, people have challenges. And here's the one thing I'll tell you. And the one thing I've learned, and this is about music again, is that no matter who you are, what you do, how good you think they are, how bad you think they are, there are going to be people in this world that like what that artist does, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that means there's something they have to offer.
Right.
So tearing somebody down, you know, sure, there's some things that production, pitch, you can talk about real stuff, but saying whether you think it's great or horrible, and I'm guilty of this too, dude. We all do it. But doing that with maliciousness and you know, the reality of it is man, it does nothing. It does nothing to help. You know, some people bring that on themselves. But I can tell you a guy like you, a guy like me, I see lots of guys just doing the work, and because they're working, they're casted out.
Yeah. You're right.
You know, and then so I'll tell you a funny story, and this is the perfect synopsis of what I'm talking about. So I used to do bodybuilding, powerlifting, and you and I talked about this. And I'll never forget these times because I think it's so parallel, and I'll keep it short and sweet. Man, I would go, and my buddies would be like, hey, you're not going to stay here and drink with us? I said, no, I'm going to go work out. Oh, you're not going to drink? No, man, I don't want to drink because I'm on a meal plan. Hey, man, I'm going to go do this. About 8 months later, dude, I'm like, look like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they're like, hey, man, how'd you do that? Yeah, you remember those times? Do you remember those times? I remember those times. The times that you pretty much kicked me in the nuts because I wouldn't go drink with you, or the times that I didn't want to eat the pizza and you called me a PUSSY. And I said, that's how I did it. That's how I did it. I said no, and I did the work. And so when people sit back and they look at a guy like you or a guy like, there are lots of guys that are successful. And there are levels of success, man. In this regional, man, it's getting a little notoriety, getting people that know who you are, finding some fan base.
Yeah, that's it.
Man, they need to quit looking at you. They need to look at themselves. Because if they're envious, they're obviously not doing something that you're doing.
Right.
Because, again, we already talked about it doesn't have anything to do with talent.
Correct.
It does, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. A little bit.
You know, said something. I apologize. And I really do want you to tell us what your social medias are. But what you just said, I see a lot of stuff because I'm always the sober person in a bar because I'm always working.
Oh, dude, me too.
I see all these, and I'm going to be very generalized. And this is not like I'm saying every person, but it's just a generalization of the people that I encounter in bars. But I see a lot of women in bars that complain that men are not this, men are not that. They don't, they're not hard workers, they're not providers, blah, blah, blah. But yet the girls that come up to me and give me a hard time for not dancing with them or not taking a shot of tequila and call me awful, disgusting names because I say no.
Been there.
Mm-hmm.
Working, that bothers me, and I just have to say that. I'm sorry. We were just. It seemed
Well,
like
but
you're right.
They're dead on. Go ahead, Bubba. I'm sorry.
So I'm 2 years sober now. And the fact that you say that, and especially Dusty, about how your friends are like, oh, you're not drinking anymore, you're not partying anymore. I started finding out the real value of friends. The friends that value who I was as a human being and who I am as a human being in general. Other than me partying and me being able to go, hey, dude, I play here. This bar gave me a free shot. So you want some? I don't. That's the people that are leeches, and not only this transparents, and transitions into the music scene. There's people that are the same way. A ton of people that are the same way. that you can give them all you want and vice versa, and they have nothing to give you back. They have no value to give you back. They have no sense of, just being a moral human, man. I mean, God, it's not that hard to just help your friend. And it's the people that tie into you and talk the most mess about people like that are just, and I know we're here now, and people are going to be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You sound so two-faced right now, but I'm being honest with you because that's how it is. It is like that, dude, everywhere. And I mean, I want to name two people right now because I've met them through Dusty. So we all three know them. In the Houston scene, another one of my favorite human beings down here is Jeff Canada. Jeff is one of those people that says, hey, I'm going to help you. He does an artist spotlight. He spotlights somebody, that's in the scene, in the music scene in general. But if Jeff says he's going to do something or going to help you out 100%. In some way, Jeff will do it. Jeff's not one of those people that I'm still waiting on Jeff. That's not that. Jeff's not like that, and he's a hard worker too, dude. And I give him that 1,000%. Another guy I met, and he's not even from Texas. I met him when I did the show for Smith Music. Was Chuck Briziana, dude? That guy's in Missouri. Amazing. He lives in Missouri, right, or somewhere's up there. And unfortunately, he's an amazing human being, dude. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to connect and do the show together. But we probably talk, every other week, maybe once a month or something about, hey, dude, I want to get you up here, or, I want to get you down here. And unfortunately, our schedules don't tie in together, and the venues that, we've communicated with they're not even in here. I want to bring them down to where I'm from, and he wants to bring me up to Nebraska, or Missouri. It hasn't worked yet, but the fact that we can talk about it, and I know he means it, and I know that he knows I mean it back, and I value that friendship, dude, that's just one of those things that you don't see every day, and that sucks. Like, I can go up there with Dusty, and Dusty invited me to his home. I stayed there. We had great talks, business talks. We had great talks as just human beings. We had great talks, and this happens. I'm going to say this way. We had great talks as men, as full, men. You don't say that. We had deep, manly talks about life, about our kids. We went to church together. We praised God in the same fellowship hall together. Where else do you get to do that? And that's what you're talking about. These are the type of relationships that you want to create in this industry that last more than just the business. It goes beyond the business. It shows what kind of character you have, the kind of person that you are, and the hard work you're willing to put in for just everybody.
I want to say the last thing on that, because I love what you just said. It sounds like we're complaining. Here's the thing that I honestly believe.
Yeah, we're not complaining.
Man, a lot of these people really want to be in a situation where they can trust, but they've had really bad experiences in their life. And all of us as artists and as people are really afraid to be vulnerable, right, which I think is huge. Put yourself out there.
I went through that.
Because you don't trust or you don't know. And one of those deals are, man, there are people in this business that are human, right? They're human. They understand feelings, and at the end of the day, we're all so much closer in our experiences than what anybody can imagine. That, man, when you find the right group of people, and it does take time, right? Man, you can have really cool, surreal relationships and experiences that benefit you in all capacities, like you just described.
Right.
But there has to be a willingness to be vulnerable, right? And a lot of that, man, and think about it from this perspective. We're going to go back to music. There's a lot of songwriters that will not co-write because they don't want they say they can't do well with others, right? Well, dude, I think it's because they don't want anybody to judge their writing. They don't want to get their feelings hurt. They don't want to be, and at the end of the day, how we grow is dealing with our peers. How we grow as men is having conversations about experiences. Songwriting's the same way. I as growing up playing music, and I'm still always the worst musician in the band, right? But how I got any better is I would put myself with these people that played damn circles around me, and I'd have to step up. Yeah. But that's life too. That's musician, that's life, that's songwriter, that's human being, that's man, father, The roles that we cherish the most are the places that feel the most vulnerable.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, no one wants to get hurt. But let me tell you something. Those experiences change you. They challenge you and they change you. And so the reason why I felt like this conversation was important is because it goes full circle. It goes with creativity, but it also goes with being a good human being.
Right.
Man.
Exactly.
Just trying to be best.
1,000%.
And I'm not perfect because I'm an asshole. I'll be the first one to tell you I can be an asshole. So I'm human.
I'm
I can tell you every day.
I think saying about me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I work really hard to keep my BS in check. That's all I can do.
Same.
And most people will tell you, most of the time, I'm just, I say what I think, which is hard, but Brian's the same way. And it's hard. It's hard, man, but you got to trust people. And when you surround yourself with people that you do good business, have great conversation, they can say stuff to you and it doesn't bother you. And man, we are not objective as artists about ourselves. We think we know. And a lot of times people that see us from the outside know more about us.
Yeah. So I'd like to sign off with this. Oh, if you're done, sorry.
No, I'm good, man. You go.
So I'd like to sign off with saying, like, to anybody on the Houston scene that sees this, that isn't Jeff Canada or the promoter that we talked about. And I don't want to like name drop the promoter and then him be upset that I even mentioned him. So I'm just going to say, and if you're from the Houston scene, you know who he is. He's a great human being. Does so much for everybody. And I love that. I love that for people. I like to, help my surrounding community as much as I can. And the thing about it being is, I got sober 2 years ago. And when you're talking about keeping your BS in check, that was one of the things, I had to do. But at the same time, I had to figure out that fine line of where do I not show people that very, very fine gray line there that, you can't let anybody cross. But at the same time, I'm willing to help out anybody that is in the Houston scene. If you need something that I can give to you, and anybody, Fort Worth, it doesn't matter. I'm one of those people, and Dusty, I know you're the same way. If there's something that I can do to help you, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and vice versa. And if that's the way it needs to be, but nobody sees it that way anymore. So it's so hard to be in a scene to where you want to help out so many musicians, but where are they going to give back? Not saying that necessarily you're waiting for them to give back or you need them to give back, but this is a business and this is a community, man. A clock doesn't work without the other hand, and a clock doesn't work properly without everything rotating. Hey, we talked about tension in the church. Remember, there's a perfect time for this. What we learned in church the other day, when the guitar doesn't have the right amount of tension, it's out of tune.
Yeah.
That's the same way this scene works. That's the same way this business works. If we're not all in tune with each other and making things work the same way, even if it's just your personal business, even if it's just your music and your thing that you're focusing on, if something is out of sync or out of tune and there's not enough tension working there properly, it's not going to work. It will not work. And so, man, I thank you all so much for having me on today. And I know this podcast is going to probably piss a few people off, but I think what we did here today, guys, is something in the scene that needs to be said, and I will stand behind this 1,000%. So, hate me or love me, baby, I still love you. So,
me too. I love you guys, man. Hey, thank you, Bubba.
If you want to submit any complaints, you can submit.
Don't give them my email.
No, if you're interested in booking Bubba or Dusty, I'm not going to give their information.
Or Ryan.
Shoot an email.
Shoot an email to
texascountryday@gmail.com, and I will forward any booking requests on to either
Bubba West,
guys.
Westly. If you don't spell Wesley right, it pops up Bubba Sparks. I don't sing Booty Booty Rockin' everywhere. So Westly, West L-Y. I don't see. So.
Well, you know what? The next time I see you, I'm going to write booty, 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 rocking everywhere on the back of $100 bill, and we'll see if you play it.
And if you need a Bubba Westly hat, these things are amazing. Actually, what do you wear? What hat do you wear in there, Dusty? Because I got my Dusty Moach shirt on and my Bubba Westly hat.
Man, I'm about to go to the gym, so I've got my Voodoo Ranger IPA hat that's got, you can kind of see at the top, it's already got some sweat.
Sure.
I didn't want to ruin my Bubba Westly hat with my fat sweat people.
So TNT Western Wear, they're one of my sponsors from Bay City, Texas. Shout out to TNT Western Wear. They got clothes. If you're into Western Wear and you're down in the Matagorda County area, y'all go down there and get them. I also want to give a quick shout out because my son is part of this organization. I'm wearing their shirt today. Needville Blue Jays, Needville Little League. Congrats on the World Series. They're in the World Series in Williamson, Pennsylvania. So, man, I wish y'all the best. Good luck to Needville. I had to support this today on the podcast for him because I'm rooting for y'all, man. It's an organization that my kid's involved in. He goes to school down in Needville, Texas. It's a small little Texas town. And the fact that, that they're doing so well, man, that's where I grew up. That's the area, the hood that I grew up in. And, congrats to them, and I wish y'all all the best, man. So y'all get down over there and y'all show the world what y'all can do for Texas. Well, thank y'all guys so much, man. I had a blast, and hope we'll do this again sometime.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yep,
well, Dusty, I'll have you help me, but again, thanks for listening watching Texas Country Day Podcast, and of course, thank you to our sponsors. I'm going to start with Single Microphones. We got Fort Worth Camera. And, of course, SmithMusic.com. I'm going to get it right one of these times.
Y'all need a low one in there.
No, I think yours is good, dude. DJ would be proud.
Our Watson boots.
Kind of like Oak Ridge Boys. Like, what's his name? Yep. Richard what? Richard, oh, my gosh. Anyway, you had to ask me. Richard was the low guy. Right.
Texas Select Beverage Company, Sharp Supply Leather Company, and who's the other one? I've been forgetting one.
Watson Boots.
We got our Watson Boots, I thought. Smith Music.
Your camera company.
I think I got them all.
This is a great conversation.
All right. Well,
I think you're so emotionally charged from our amazing conversation that you are seeing the shiny silver object.
This conversation was so. I tell people that this is unscripted, and it's unscripted for reasons like this because sometimes there's things more important than the music to talk about, and obviously we all talk about it. And I'll sign off with this, but
absolutely,
I think we need to have you back for like a part 2 to where we actually talk about some of the cool stuff you've done in your life, like. Going on American Idol and going on.
We won't mention names, but we'll talk
Los
about
Angeles. And
hey,
things like that. And
are you talking about Days of Our Lives?
No, it was that late night HBO stuff.
Bubba, you were the sex symbol on Days of Our Lives.
I just didn't want to talk about it because it's a little TVMA, you know what I'm saying? But if you stay up late and watch HBO, you can see me on there.
Confessions?
Maybe without clothes on.
Taxi confession.
Guy myself, I had this. Now I'm dating myself. We had the cable back in the day to where to get certain channels you had to screw in a resistor to the cable thing, and we had the Cinemax thing, and it was all my puberty years were Skinemax, man. I'm just saying.
I'm going to tell you, man, they didn't do a really good job of scrambling our Skinemax, and I would watch Scrambled Skinemax. I'd catch a boob every now and then. And
then we had at one point I had a jailbroken cable box.
You might have saw me on there.
All the channels, so. Man. But for joining us on the podcast. Yeah. I think you're a little young. I think you're a little young for what I'm thinking. So.